Thank you so much, Jaime and Jason, for joining me on Backstage Pass. So happy to have you both.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Sam.
Wonderful. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So I know Sony's really been pushing the envelope in terms of virtual production. So can you share a little bit about how you're helping to make workflows more efficient and ways that you're giving creators more flexibility on set?
Yeah, I think I'll take the first stab at this one, Jace. Honestly, we have a long history in production and cinematic technologies. We're invested in the community, so we have a lot of touch points throughout the industry, not just with the end users, but with the partners and events like InfoComm and partners like AVIXA, who we continue to highlight in a lot of our design, workflow, target marketing, and collection of how we perceive the user in our space.
Yeah. And, to add to that, I think everyone in the industry sees the benefit of virtual production, but they also see the barriers to entry. It's complex. There's a lot of infrastructure requirements and expertise. And so what Sony's trying to do is break down as many of those boundaries as possible, let creators use this very powerful technology, process for the benefit of their creative projects.
And in doing so, you've had the opportunity to work with some really big names, including in sports and entertainment and even education. I know that that's actually, growing. So what have you seen with those partnerships, and what have they taught you about virtual production, their needs, and how those needs are evolving?
Yeah, great question. I think some of our pre-existing relationships come from our long legacy of broadcast and production, AV technologies with these customers. WWE is a great example. We've been working with them as a partner for decades. And when Sony started launching our virtual production and XR Studio solutions, it was a natural fit. They were already a strategic partner. They were already a user of our technology. And quite frankly, they also were able to give us the valuable input on how they would use it, which is uniquely different than traditional virtual production. So having that level of engagement and that collaboration, I think, has really helped open the door for others within that segment. And then talking about education, I think, is really critical. Long legacy with Sony and higher education. In collaborations, we value not just the philanthropic elements that we partner with higher education and colleges and universities, but we also value that those are the talent, right, for this workforce. Those are the future users of our products. They have invaluable feedback. It's a fun and energetic environment. The faculty, the whole administration through higher education has been phenomenal. So we have excellent partners like Texas A&M. They're one of our most recent success stories with not just virtual production, expansion into XR Studio space and design, talking throughout their entire campus platform on other technologies, just as a result of this strong, legacy that we have in the space.
Yeah. And, just to add to that, I think there's a lot of schools right now that are adopting virtual production curriculum, building out their teaching staff and their resources. And A&M has almost done that to the nth degree. They've built an entirely new school around this capability. They really see the future need for experts in this space. And, as Jaime said, we're 100% supportive of their initiatives. It's really been incredible to see.
I love that in terms of workforce development and what they're doing at Texas A&M. I know if I had a virtual production, studio at my school, I would have really understood, okay, wow, this is AV. This is what I had no idea, right, about this industry, and having such cool and really innovative technology there. I can definitely see that really helping to grow the workforce and grow the AV industry. So that's really amazing. So in terms of bringing all the tech together in terms of cameras and LEDs, tracking, software, all of those things, I know it can be tricky, right? So what are some of the biggest challenges that teams are facing in terms of integration, and in what ways is Sony helping to simplify that process?
Yeah. Virtual production is this umbrella term, and it is very difficult to define any production, in any field by one amount of qualities, right? Every production has different needs. Every creator has different preferences and, their own tools that they use to create their vision, create their look for a presentation. And so as Sony, we need to be able to bring new technologies to the market, bring new capabilities, but at the same time, they need to be flexible. We know, obviously, our preference is always to have Sony cameras and LED and monitors, all these things in every set, but we know that's not realistic, and a good director of photography or cinematographer has their own, cameras, lens sets that they like to use. And so interoperability is a necessity. It's a bit of a challenge for us, but it's something that we really want to be more open to, working with other manufacturers, working with other equipment. And I think as Sony, I think it's fair to say we haven't always done that well, but it is something that we are making real steps to improve upon, as we move forward. And it's been, for us as Sony employees, it's been great to see our openness to do that.
Yeah, I'll add to Sam. I think finding the right partners to help represent us in a project with an end user is really critical. And to Jason's point, right, virtual production is an umbrella term, but it encompasses so many pieces, and Sony certainly can't fit all of them, even if we made all those products. There really is a necessity to having an expert who understands all of the options and applies the right manufacturer, the right configuration, designs the right workflow for the application of that end user, because every one of these end user projects is so uniquely different, and everybody's doing a little bit of their version of virtual production in a way that's unique to them. So having somebody that really has that expertise in the design, the workflow, the consultation, and that deep engagement with the end user, along with Sony and the other manufacturers, is critical.
Definitely sounds like us. Interoperability is the key term there, in terms of like the software and the hardware, all that solutions, as well as working with those various partners in order to really bring everything together to work seamlessly. So continuing with that theme, talking about making things working seamlessly, virtual production, obviously, it's all about the hardware and the software working together. So how is Sony making those systems work more intuitively and ready for more real world production demands?
Yeah. I think we have the benefit of providing so many pieces of the workflow that we can also, not only, obviously making them work better together, right? Talking between camera and the tracking system, reducing the amount of additional devices that you may need to use a camera tracking system. That's a tangible benefit to someone working on set. Every AC wants to reduce the amount of hardware that's on the camera as much as possible, and that's always a challenge. But beyond that, because we're touching so many different parts of the workflow, we're able to see where there are gaps, and that's where we're trying to fill them with our virtual production tool set, our software tools, new solutions, even pre-production to create content, to capture, real world objects and scenes. All of that is in an effort to make this process easier, more cost effective, more efficient, basically.
Wonderful. And I know that the whole world of virtual production is just expanding so quickly. I remember a few InfoComms ago, like one of my first ones I was introduced to, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And ever since then, it's just growing and growing. And I'm seeing so many more and much more technologies and people using it. So how is Sony adapting its strategy to support everything and expanding from major broadcasters even to universities, which is what we spoke on a little bit before?
Yeah, I think, one of our strengths, right, is not just an innovative technology company, but our deep relationships with our customers. So we have a very strong network of key accounts that are not just global, not just specialists in their fields, but cross many verticals and segments in education, in content creation, in sports, entertainment. And so having the ability to make a phone call to one of these strategic key accounts and say, hey, we have this new product. We want to test it in your environment. Can we bring our crew in and do this, for a day? And very rarely can we not get in at some point, other than a big production happening right on set. But that collaboration is so critical for them as well, because they're always looking to add efficiencies to their workflow. They want to be part of the cutting edge and the bleeding edge technology, usually at that key account level, right? That's how we are able to build scalability across these technologies and solutions. And so I really believe that it is so much more than just having something to sell. It is really collaborating and having those deep-rooted relationships and being able to take that feedback back to the R&D team and create a modified version based on how we know now the industry is going to use that product or that technology.
Yeah. And just to expand on that, I mean, as Jaime said, it's not transactional with most of these projects. We're doing a lot of work to develop their own unique production workflow, their own look, educate as well, because, like you said, a lot of these institutions are adopting these processes for the first time, or they're new to them. And so we're doing education on the best way, not just to use, Sony solutions, but the overall, package of solutions. And then, after they adopt our hardware, we're working with them for, years beyond that to make things better, to, bring new efficiencies that we may have developed. And so it's an ongoing iterative process. And again, as Jaime pointed out, our relationships in the industry, are a huge benefit to that. And that's part of what we feel like is our real value that we're bringing to the market.
And you both touched on, the importance of feedback, right? And I think in order to really make your solutions great, it is important to listen to, those end users and the people who are actually, using that technology to hear what's working, what's not, and what they'd like to see. So how much does feedback from, let's say, your production teams, how does that shape what Sony decides to build next? And can you share any examples of where feedback made a real difference for Sony?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything, honestly. And even, with our LED products, Crystal LED Verona, we spent a significant amount of time talking to key relationships we have in the industry, studios, production houses, stage owners, about what they were missing, right? And at that point in time, it was contrast. They were having to make really significant compromises on set with lighting because their LED panels just could not get down to those lower level gradation that they need, to represent the image. So they were having to, boost all their other natural, practical lighting up, right? So we wanted to bring something to market that had a really, true black level, able to really hold its own in those lower ends. Because if you think about general virtual production type, shoots, a lot of sci-fi, space, fantasy, dark scenes, candlelight, you want to be able to provide them something that will allow that flexibility on set. Because, if they're not able to do that, they'll just do something else, right? They're not going to compromise the quality of the vision. So it really is everything. I think in the past, historically, Sony's had products where we don't do that. We bring it to market, and it's not always the most successful. And so we've been having a lot more of this iterative voice of customer feedback over, really the past 10 years or so. And it's brought us success in the camera market, display market, and others.
Yeah. And I'll add to what Jason is saying that even when we do perfect a product and it becomes this amazing usable tool, that doesn't always mean we've solved the problem, right? Of what that production or that customer or what that unique segment is using that product for. So you may then create an additional tool or service or software that enhances the ability of what that product's true capability really is. And the virtual production tool set is a great example, right? That's a software that enhances existing products and creates efficiencies in a workflow that is game changing on a production set. It's saving you time, which is saving you money, saving you resource and manpower. And so the continuation of finding those efficiencies and being a technology company, we're able to continue to to build and create that. We just need to know what the problem is. So that's, again, going back to that voice of customer and having these amazing relationships, with strategic accounts. What is your problem? What is your biggest frustration? Yes, the product is gorgeous and beautiful, but how do we make you use it more? And how does it become more efficient for you? And I think that's something that we've become really good at.
There's always a new problem.
Always a new problem.
Right.
And that's what drives us, so.
Exactly. Yeah. You're in the, tech industry. So you're always going to come up with something new and innovative to solve those problems. And yes, definitely being, customer focused is really going to help you stay ahead of the curve because you're listening to them and what they need and what they want. And so obviously you have customers of various scales, some larger, some smaller, and scalability is really important, right? Because it's not one size fits all. So how is Sony really making tech more accessible for teams with different sizes and various skill levels?
Yeah, I think one way is we've become much more nimble. So we're not making a product that is designed to be the only solution for the next decade or two, right? The product will last that long, but that doesn't mean the application or the workflow or the need of that industry will. And, a great example is when Mandalorian launched virtual production, everybody wanted these huge, large volumes, right? They're permanent installations. They're really mega volumes. And that was the trend. And that's what all the reports said. And that's what the key accounts said they wanted. And this was only a few years ago. And so not just Sony, but I think the industry migrated in that direction and quickly pivoted. We don't need big permanent volumes. They're not one size fits all. Not everybody's going to get the use out of it that you put the money and investment and budget and time and resource and to operate it, right? Finding that talent. So now the industry's changed so rapidly. And I think we've become nimble and are keeping up with that rapid pace of change. And we're shifting our focus. I want to give away all of the secret sauce of things that we're doing to pivot quickly. But I think, again, a lot of it has to do with those great connections, being on set, not just selling and walking away and going to the next one, but staying engaged and really following up. How are you using it? How is it going? What are you seeing? Attending industry events, talking about what we're seeing as a trend and collaborating with the industry, right? Everybody in the room should be sharing so that we're all successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of projects, the organizations that we're working with, the size of the organization or the stature in the industry doesn't always dictate the size of their project, right? So one major studio may have small projects, may have a project where they have, a certain budget that doesn't always meet what we're offering. So that's why I think, part of what we're doing right now is, like Jamie said, being able to scale things down, being able to be more efficient or bring more flexibility, but then also bringing products that are of a variety of, price points, capabilities, so that there's choice. Not every project is going to be a AAA, major studio film. And I think that's important for us to remember.
Absolutely. I think if we learned anything from the pandemic is learning how to be flexible and continue to do that, and collaboration, obviously. So that's amazing to hear that that's what Sony is really focusing on to push all of that forward. So I know that we keep hearing more and more about the importance of immersive visuals and accurate tracking. I'm hearing a lot about that. So how is Sony helping creators to really push realism and creative control and taking it to the next level?
Yeah, it comes at it from many different angles, and there's products that we have in R&D that we've shown that are about increasing the quality of scenes that are captured in the real world, making it much easier. We're going to be launching some things later this year that people will be able to do stuff with their own personal devices that we weren't able to do with professional cameras and things just a few years ago. So that the pace of technology and the capabilities of technology, rapidly changing, as everybody knows. I think that tracking is something that people thought at the start that there were really only a few ways to do it. But our new tracking system, Ocellus, It uses optical technology to do its tracking. It doesn't rely on markers or a system of cameras to track an object. It's doing that from the camera using objects in the scene. And obviously that can be a benefit on set, but it allows you to expand your set out of a soundstage into a real world environment or at a live event like a concert or a sports game. And now you can create those immersive visuals in spaces that you physically were not able to do before because you couldn't preset a tracking system in that space previously. So
Wonderful. Definitely something exciting to learn about. I know I'll check out your booth and learn a little bit more about that as well. So now let's look ahead. Like, what is next for Sony in the future, especially in the virtual production space? And what can we expect in terms of new innovations or directions? You guys are always coming up with really great new technology. So what is next for Sony?
Yeah, I think, we're changing and pivoting as the industry changes and pivots, right? The application, the use case has morphed dramatically. We touched on a little bit earlier how it's already pivoted away from these big permanent volumes into micro volumes and pop-ups. But even within that modality, the technology is going to change, and we're trying to expand what this virtual production term really means. In the basic definition, right? It's a virtual environment, and we have a set core of technologies and solutions that Sony can provide in a pre-existing environment with Unreal Engine or a couple processors that we have interoperability with. I think continuing to look at other companies that are complementing the workflow and the creative abilities to continue enhancing things like motion capture, volumetric capture, right? Gaussian splats are like all the rage, and creating these new assets that can simplify a workflow and become a really credible foundation to your plates and your library of assets. So there's this entire creation of immersive experiences and technologies that Sony's working on. And Jason touched a little bit about, what's coming in the not too distant future that's already in R&D. We're showing it behind closed doors in some of our tech suites. Some of those key accounts that we work with actually have helped us find our footing and direction. Are we doing it the right way? Are we making the right type of technology? And if not, we pivot. And we do this by collecting a lot of that voice of customer, and we'll do surveys, and we'll do these private launches and a proof of concept on one of our customer stages. And we run it through the trial process. And that's how we're going to continue to evolve this. But boy, I wish I had a magic 8-ball to see what the industry is going to look like in 3 years.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and at InfoComm, we're going to be showing a new LED product. It's called Crystal LED Capri. It is a mass market, a broader offering versus our Verona product. But like we touched on before, it is crucial because every project needs flexibility, even the largest ones, in the devices that they're using on set. It's not a one size fits all solution. So we're trying to bring these very capable but more accessible products. We just launched the FX2. It's an entry level full frame camera. These are things that were not thought to be possible a short time ago, but this is the kind of advanced technology we want to put in the hands of not just creators, but to our point earlier, students, educational institutions, so that they can have these capabilities as well.
This is amazing. Like, I'm so excited about all of the things that Sony is doing in the virtual production world. And so just to leave our audience, I just want to know what makes you guys, what are you so excited about in terms of virtual production and where you see it's heading in the future? What's turning? Get your wheels turning. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know, right? What lights your fire about virtual production? I like the way that you spun that. And yeah, gets you up in the morning and where you see it's going in the future.
A couple things for me that I am really excited about is not just that a customer wants our solution or values that we have all of the pieces that really enhance that workflow, right? The LED, the camera, the virtual production tool set, the new Ocellus tracking system. Sony's not just trying to sell more boxes. We're creating an ecosystem to design efficiencies, color accuracy. There's science behind it. And I love that we have this ability because there's no other company that can do all of these things. And there's a lot of coined phrases here: lens to living room, camera to couch, right? Like, we make that entire chain of technology. The fun part for me, and what's lighting my fire about all of this, is that once a customer does invest, right, and invest in this technology and starts using it, they quickly realize, wow, this really helped. Like, sure, it's Sony, it's a premium product. I might have had to spend a little more on my budget to be able to buy all of these things, but it doesn't just look great, it works great, and it's continuing to evolve. So as Jason was saying, we're continuing to bring new products to market. We're launching things very regularly, which is really exciting. More things coming very soon. But the thing for me is that the customer is using and pushing the capabilities of that technology, and we're continuing to enhance what's available. So we're growing together. And I love that. I love that we have these opportunities where we're with this development with the customer.
I love it. Jason?
Yeah, it is an exciting time right now. It feels like we're on the cusp of another kind of generational leap in this market. Jaime's in Vancouver right now at our sister company Pixamondo's new stage. They're showing off their Akira vehicle platform. They're able to put everything from a Jeep to a helicopter on this gimbal and move it around in ways that really were never possible before. And it's those kind of, if virtual production started out as this very broad, umbrella concept, we're really getting into very specific technologies now that are, well beyond what we were able to do just a few years ago, but they solve, major needs in the market. And between, Akira, between some of the work we're doing in content creation, spatial capture, new ways to capture what's going on set, not just in maybe two-dimensional ways. All of that is going to lead to really broad capabilities in the very near future in many different production environments. That's what is exciting for us right now. We're seeing it on the inside right now. I think in a year's time, there will be quite a bit that is more broadly known across the industry, and you can feel some of the excitement building for that right now.
Well, I absolutely love that. I hope we can capture this excitement and bring it with us to Orlando. I already know it's going to be a huge buzz, and your Sony booth is definitely one to stop by. And I know attendees are going to want to go and just experience all of the technology you have there. So can you share with us your booth number, and we'll make sure that everybody marks their calendars and puts that information there.
Yeah, we're in booth 2001. We're looking forward to seeing everybody there, talking to them about what we're offering, and hearing also what everyone else is showing as well.
Fantastic. Well, I definitely can't wait to see you both in a few weeks at InfoComm, and I can't thank you enough for sitting down with me today on Backstage Pass. Thank you so much, Jaime and Jason. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you so much,
Samantha.
Sam.
Thanks, AVIXA.